Okay, welcome to today's episode of AI Engineering Floor. I welcome Michal Kecera, VP of Engineering in Rohlik. Rohlik doesn't need any introduction on the Czech market. It's the biggest online grocery store. Everybody's buying their grocery on Rohlik. Rohlik comes like 3 times a day to our family, definitely. But for our international audience, it's an online grocery group operating now in 5 different countries, in Czechia, Germany, Austria, Hungary, and Romania. Has promises of 60-minute delivery, which in our case is always the case because we live literally across the street of your biggest store in Prague, and has 1.3 billion euro of annual revenue from last year, 40% year-over-year growth, so very successful, and is now turning into a logistics company, basically licensing the logistics technology to others, groceries, or other companies also?
Yes, essentially all the tech that powers Rohlik, right, that powers the customer experience that we have as a solution to anyone who would try to implement it.
Excellent. So Michal is VP of Engineering. He joined Rohlik 3 years ago.
Yes.
As a team leader of a machine learning team. Michal has a strong machine learning background, and his focus is on automation. So now he's a VP of Engineering and trying to automate the development of the technology as much as it gets. And recently he talked on a meetup about 70% of the code being written by AI currently. So AI now writes a lot of code. The DORA report recently released claims that 90% of developers use AI for writing code in some capacity. Is there anything you want to say at the start?
Thank you for having me, first of all. And I think a very exciting topic. We went just yesterday. We had a meetup about this, right? We had the key topic was agentic engineering, and it was quite a journey to get here, right? And it's very exciting where this is going to go, because this is not the end. This is just the beginning of something that will revolutionize how we write code, how we ship, how we create engineering products.
Yeah, eager for your sharing how it goes, how it's evolving the software development and product development process, and what's the future of it. So what caught me when we were preparing for this talk was that you quote one of your engineers on some internal show and tell event. I don't have the quote, I will be paraphrasing, but what he essentially said, as a senior engineer, when I was doing code reviews, my value added was knowing the code base, having written most of it by bare hands, and catching all the things that somebody could have missed. But now that most of the code is written by AI, I no longer write the code. What would be my value of a code reviewer, actually? So, which also becomes a larger portion of the time spent in software engineering nowadays, right?
Yep. Yeah, and it's I think it's our largest bottleneck now, code reviews, right? So if we, in the state that we are currently in, where vast majority of the code is AI written, right, and we are able to essentially the portion of generating code, generating the feature, right, that does something is very fast. And the bottleneck is not there, right? The bottleneck currently shifted to the code review. So our best engineers are spending 80% of their time reviewing code. They are not anymore writing code. Right? So this is a shift that for us essentially happened in the last half a year, and everyone is sort of adjusting to it. And our next phase or next thing to solve will be, okay, so how do we alleviate this bottleneck, right? The bottleneck of human needing to review all the code that's generated, because it will be a lot of it, much more than.
So how to automate the code review process?
Yes, exactly.
Yes. So let's first dissect the numbers. You said 70% of the code is being now written by AI.
Yes.
70% of what exactly? What is 70%?
So the way that we measure it is, so for us, it's 70% of PRs don't have any manual written code. That means that all the commits were done through coding agents, and there was no manual input. The 30% that sort of is left out, that's mostly some maybe quick adjustment, quick manual sort of fixes, but that goes out, right? So for us, 70% of PRs means that PR is completely AI written, right? It still goes through a human review, but it was written by AI, and even the review and those commits and those sort of fixes of the initial one, those are done by AI as well. So that's how we measure it, right? And for us is less about, or for me is less about sophistication of the measurement than actually knowing that we are moving forward and we are sort of understanding the next bottlenecks, the next things that we need to improve in order that we can, multiply our speed, right, and what we are able to ship. So whether it's this measurement or some other, what's important for me is, okay, so we are here, what are the next bottlenecks, right? So what we now need to do to not increase, by 50-60% the speed, but to increase it multiple times.
Okay, so just to rephrase, 70% of PRs that have no code written by a person.
Yes.
How do you know a code is written by a person? You know it by a commit message, or?
So typically, if it's written by an agent adds a co-authorship tag, and then
we have commits.
Yeah, and also what we have that if the sort of author is an agent, which is also the case, then that of course is, we know that's written by that's written by an agent. So for the co-authorship for us in our environment means that it was written by an agent because no one sort of tampered with it or committed manually.
Okay. So how big is a typical PR, typical pull request?
It varies a lot, right? The way that Rohlik is structured, or the sort of tech solutions that we have and services that we have, some of them are internal solutions, so the things that run our warehouse, run our last mile, run the internal systems that we have, and some of it is external, so our web application, our mobile application. So those are the things that customer sees, right? And the PRs, right, that we create are, again, they vary a lot, right? So it could be something that's just a few lines of code to something that's hundreds lines of code. So I don't think we have a typical one. What we tend to have now is that, whether that's a small one or a large one, it's mostly written by AI. So it doesn't really matter to us anymore. Right? What matters to us is, okay, so how accurate that could be, right? So I don't need to change it, review it, and just go from the start, and how fast I can get it to production, right? So I just don't have any average size of PR because it really varies a lot.
Okay, and it doesn't really matter. So the recently released Pharos report, which is the new kid on the block, it is to gain its credibility, quotes that the average size of PR grew 50%. Do you see such a thing, or is it something that you don't even bother measuring?
We don't track it, so it's not important to us, right? Because it does not matter how big or small it is. I mean, you can have a parallel with, or you can have a proxy, like number of lines of code says about something about simplicity, right? But if I'm able to, if I'm able with agents to work in code bases that are much larger, because I don't have that cognitive bottleneck, right? I still have context, right? But the context is much, much larger than a human can have. So if I don't have that bottleneck, then I don't really care about the size. Of course, it shouldn't be something crazy. But if it's, plus 30% or minus 10%, my question would be, okay, so what does it impact? Does it impact the speed which I'm able to ship? Does it impact the quality? And I would argue that it does not, right? If my processes are set up correctly, if I have agents doing the right things, both on the sort of code generation side and on the review side, then essentially it does not matter. If it's multiple times over, right, so I can have some simple PRs that I will now bloat, then that becomes a problem, of course. But these tens of percentages here and there, we are not focused that much on it, right? We are focused on other things.
So as long as it does what it's supposed to, it doesn't really matter. Yeah?
Yes,
And as long as the next agent doesn't break it.
Yes. And as long as it doesn't break production.
So how do you know it does what it's supposed to do? So that's the key. That's the key measure. Yeah. What was the feedback process with users and customers?
Yes.
And how did it evolve? How was it like before code being written by AI? How is it now? Is there any change in this?
So we still do have the human being responsible, right, for the outcome. That I think is important, right? So people will be responsible for the outcome for foreseeable future, right? So for us, it means that whatever is merged to our code base goes through human review now. So the check that it does what it's supposed to be is the same as it was before, right? So someone checks or people check, and all the processes, afterwards are roughly the same, right? What changes for us is that we are able to do it much quickly, right? So we are able to ship much more code, and that's why the review part becomes a bottleneck, right? Because we still did not change the thing where you say, okay, so humans responsible, human reviews. And even if we have these reviews automatically and automatic approvals, which we will have very soon, and part of the code base will be written without actually anyone seeing it. By anyone, I mean humans. Of course, several agents will see it and iterate and review. Then at that point, sort of what will happen is that still people will be responsible, but the responsibility shifts to the people who designed the system that does that, right? So if I designed a repo system with all the context, with all the review agents, with all the CI pipelines tests, and I agree that, okay, so these can be merged automatically, then I'm responsible for making the decision, right? So it's still people having the responsibility, but it depends on where in the process it is, right? Whether it's on the human review before it's shipped to our customers or internal, external customers, or whether it's responsibility for designing the system.
So have users noticed that the delivery speed grew? What would be the major groups of users? So that would be couriers, that would be customers.
Right, okay, so
definitely that would be people in the stores.
Yes.
We're putting stuff into baskets.
That would be, so if I take a look the whole, let's say, the chain of services that we have, right, that Rohlik Tech supports. So at the start is, of course, the customer facing thing. So our customers, right? So our valued customers, that's the first, let's say, customer group, if I say so. So then the second part is then it moves to our internal customers, right? Which is warehouse first, right? So if someone orders something, then we need to be able to package it, right? We need to be able to pick it. We need to be able to put it into bags. So a lot of our customers are in the warehouse, right? So that's essentially pickers, right? But also our, let's say, non-human customers, which are the robots, right? So the robotic arms, which is the auto store, essentially. So the automated picking solution, and then we move to the last mile. And last mile, we still don't have, autonomous driving. So there we have customers, which, couriers, who essentially deliver the products in the last mile to our customers. So we have various groups, and from, how we could say that if they noticed or not. So we know that the speed which we are shipping increased, right?
Roughly by
60-70% from November 25. So if I take October, November 25 as a baseline, and if I measure it by number of PRs, the code that was shipped, different measures I can pick, then it's per person per active engineer is about 60% higher than before. I don't think they've noticed in the negative way that it will be somehow, from the quality perspective less than it was before.
So they're not complaining more.
We measure it, right? So we have we know when there is an incident. So we have P1 to P5 type of incidents. Like P1 is something that's very serious, right? It stops us being able to deliver, right? Or it directly affects customers. And then you go down with the severity. And these incidents did not increase, right? So there was a change in composition of them, but they did not increase, right? So this is the output metric of the quality essentially. So I did not cause more disruption to my customers than before.
So the incidents did not increase, or they increased proportionally to the speed of delivery? Is it like the same number of incidents per PR?
That's a good point. They did not increase. So essentially, proportionally, they somewhat decreased, right? And what changed was the proportion between P1s, P2s. Right? So actually, P1s decreased, and P2s increased, but the total amount did not materially increase.
So how do you classify P1 and P2 for our audience?
So we have sort of, there are some specifics, but essentially there are a couple of things. One is monetary impact, right? So if there is large monetary impact on our operations. The second one is if it directly affects some number of our customers, our external customers. So that's another one. And the third one is if it directly affects our ability to deliver, right? So for example, if let's say AutoStore is down, then that is, if we cause that, then that's a P1 incident because it directly affects that we can't deliver to our customers.
Okay. So P1 is customer facing, or
customer facing. They could be internal customer facing, but they sort of affect our ability to deliver,
to feed people.
Yes, or they could even not affect it, but some monetary value was, there is a threshold for some monetary value.
Yes. So this is very interesting finding that your number of incidents actually decreased per PR, because the Pharos report produced very alarming numbers at 54% bugs increase per developer, 29% bugs per PR, and even 250% increase incidents to PR ratio. So what do you do differently? What do you attribute the decrease in incidents per PR in your case?
That's very difficult to answer what we do differently, because I don't know what everyone else in that survey was doing. But I think it boils down to a few things. So the first thing is what's the release process like, right? So I said that most of our code is written by agent, but all of the PRs are reviewed by agents, right? So we have automated code reviews, right? It's, let's say, easier to have good test coverage, right? Because if we set it up properly, we are able to write more tests, more robust tests than before. And that's what agents are very good at, writing tests, right? So I think if we have these, let's say, steps correctly in terms of tests, in terms of the pipeline, in terms of the AI review and the gates to auto approval, then that's how we can essentially mitigate any issues that could be made with writing code by AI, right? So I don't know exactly what we are doing differently, but to me these are important, right? So to me, and also it's going to be much cheaper in the future to have not one review agent, but to have 5, 10 review agents, different providers, all
different
sort
things
of
to watch,
communicating. Essentially. There was a very interesting paper I read a few months ago. Essentially, where it goes is we should be able at the point of review to reason about every line of code that is there, and it should be very cheap to do, right? So if we have that kind of review in future, then that will be very difficult to actually make a mistake, right? And what we are focusing on is building the fundamentals, the basics, so when this comes, we are able to leverage it, right? So if we would still sort of, try to rely and, protect the status quo and try to rely on, okay, everything will need human review, no exceptions, then it's very difficult to leverage this exponential, right? But if we are preparing for a hands-off process, then it will be easy to leverage. And that's important to me.
Yes. So you attribute it mainly to having test automated as being easier to write and having AI agents basically better ability to catch some bugs while reviewing.
And human review as well, right? So there is still that quality gate that did not move.
Did you see increase in test coverage? Is it something that you measured? Did the test coverage of code written by AI and covered by AI increase in comparison to pre-AI era?
Every PR should come with test coverage, right? So that's one of the things where we essentially prime it to do that for every PR, it should have tests that cover the functionality.
Yes, and it proved easier to AI to force it to make a disciplined test coverage.
Yes, discipline is easier. That's an interesting area, right? So where it's really easy, it's being able to generate lots of tests automatically, right? I think where we still need to put some more work is having those final output SLOs and critical user journeys set up correctly.
Mm-hmm.
So
proper end-to-end tests.
Yeah. So we are essentially we are able to measure when something breaks. We are able to know it right away. So that's, I think, where we should put our next sort of focus, not only on the tests, which now are generated automatically fairly easily, but also more towards the sort of understanding of end-to-end process and whether that works for a customer. Right? Because a lot of the times companies don't even know that something broke, right? And it's reported by a customer, which is probably the worst case.
Yes. So who's reviewing the tests? Because I guess it's quite easy for AI to generate tests that do coverage and basically restate what the code says, especially if it's done afterwards.
Mm-hmm.
So do you have any process either by human or another AI reviewing whether the tests actually make sense, whether they are correct, and whether they are actually helpful?
It's the same gates. So we have review agents, and then we have human review still. So that's still the same process.
So the Pharos report basically pointed out a contradiction with the DORA report, which was released roughly in the same time. And the DORA says that the AI accelerates and underlines your good engineering practices, while Pharos found out that's not the case. But your case basically underlines what DORA found out, that with a strong engineering practices and a good test coverage and good review process, you are basically reducing the number of incidents and defects.
Proportionally, yes. So
that's still a good news, because the Pharos report quoting that irrespective of the engineering practices, the quality goes down.
Yep.
That sounds scary, but I'm glad to hear it's not the case.
Yes. Well, let's see. So I think I'm really looking forward to the next phase. So the next phase should really be hands-off, right? So I'm keen to find out what happens then, right? And the reason we rather want to push it now is that we will learn, right? It's going to happen. This is sort of a progress that's inevitable. And the reason that I would rather do it now is that we will learn much more quickly what we need to set up. Okay, so what systems do we need to have for this to work? So that, when we are really in it, this doesn't happen, right? So that we will not just, essentially blow up our production systems just because we have a hands-off processes now.
So before we go there, this is very exciting to automate the merge process and review process. let's spend some time on how it looks now, how we opened that one of your engineers was concerned of his role being a code reviewer of things that is increasingly more and more unknown to him. So in the theory, this is called a cognitive debt. And this is the gap between the understanding of the product and the code by people and the actual reality, which is inevitable for any system which grows in its complexity and size. So I hear a lot that AI basically accelerates this because we are losing touch. So what do you observe in this currently? You said that the review is now the bottleneck. Do you see people being burnt out or more tired, like spending more time on reviewing code that was written faster by not really a human?
I'll probably split it into two things, right? So the first thing is we will have code that no human has written or seen in the code base. That will happen, right? And also most of the code now, when AI creates the code, even now, there is very rarely that someone would really just go through it line by line, right? So I think that part where there is a coding code base, which no one really seen, that's already happening. But on the other side, we have these tools that will help you understand the code base much faster, right? So I can come to at this moment, right? I contribute to some repos, right? I don't contribute to others in our company, right? And I can come to probably any repo and have quite a good understanding what it does in about an hour, right? Not in-depth understanding, not understanding all the architectural decisions that were made, but essentially being able to contribute to some extent, right? So yes, that will be happening, but also on the other side, we have tools that will mitigate that. The second part is the second part, which is a bit I take separately, is the cognitive load. And what we see is that it's very taxing on engineers to multitask, right? So the way to increase throughput currently, it's having parallel agent sessions essentially. So you have your main task, which is difficult, and you are focusing on it with an agent and you code it, right? And then you have maybe 5 tasks next to it, which are smaller, maybe refactors, maybe just some bugs, some smaller things. And what happens is that if you spin them up in the morning, right, then they will ping you in various times of the day, right? Or in the next hour, they will be starting, ask you, okay, so I'm here, what to do next? So this context switching is starting to get difficult for people. And I think there are just 2 solutions. One is, so either we increase the, let's say, autonomy in the sense that it will be able to continue without that disruption, or it will be completely hands-off, right? So, and not every task, not every feature, but some features can be completely hands-off. So I think there is no other way. Again, I'm getting back to my completely hands-off approach, where we will need to do that at some point.
So what are the things that the agent needs input from and basically interrupting the developer waiting for it to finish?
Yeah.
That now needs an engineer to answer, but maybe in the future can look up somewhere on its own. What are the typical things?
So we already do quite a lot to make it to enrich the context as much as possible. So I'll give you an example. So previously, Rohlik, so we have many repos, many repositories, right? So previous approach was, okay, so this is a service, it needs a repository, and we've created a lot of them, right, over the years. So I know we have something more than 100 repositories, and those really, let's say, used ones, and those that are committed to very frequently is about 65. So one part of this is shrinking it down and rather having mono repositories for the whole domain, right? So we will have several services in one larger monorepo that covers one larger domain, where you can then keep the context in that monorepo, and you don't
The
need
agent can go over
exactly.
multiple.
You don't need to spread it out and direct it. So one of the things that our engineers are doing currently is that they say, okay, don't look in this service, but in that service. And I don't look in this repo and that repo. That is just rules, right? That's just something that someone has in their head because they've been with Rohlik for some time, but it doesn't need to be that way, right? So that's one part. So we are sort of shrinking, that complexity, making it easier for the agents. The second part is, of course, context within the repo, so agent MD files, documentation for the agents, which we are mostly writing for the agents now. We don't write it for people. And then the other part is sort of there's still part where you have some, let's say, institutional knowledge, how to do things. So how do you create a service in Rohlik, right? So what do you need to do and so on. So a big part of this, part of the work that we have now in front of us is getting that institutional knowledge and keeping it up to date. We already have a lot of it, right? Because at anytime someone did something and figured out, okay, this will be interesting to save for agents in this institutional knowledge, then they did that, right? And some of it is all outdated already in 4 months, 5 months.
So everything which was in people's heads, and
yes, that's
like,
in there.
The agreements and on confluences, you are gradually putting for the agents to work
that's
with.
in there, but some of it is already outdated, right? So now we are working out workflow, again, automated one, which will curate it. So essentially, okay, when should I add something to the knowledge? Well, most likely if a PR was successful, right? And if a PR was successful and it's not already in the knowledge, then that should be added. And then if a PR was successful, but it contradicts something in the knowledge, then it should be subtracted from it. So you should just delete it. And that's also something that we are currently building agents for, right?
Do you have an estimate how big is the knowledge base? Can I call it a knowledge base?
I don't think I have an. I don't think I have. It will be hundreds of different snippets of information. So if you imagine a snippet of information, something like a half a page, it will be hundreds of sort of those half a pages. I would say half of them will be outdated, and we will need to get rid of them.
So small Fellowship of the Ring,
yes.
Half of it being outdated.
Yes.
So alleviating the context switching and cognitive load from developers now is done in one, reducing the number of repositories so that the agent can see more repos at once, and also putting down all the knowledge which has been scattered across heads and everything. So agent will be more autonomous, but at some point all the knowledge will be there already, right?
Yes, and
probably with the process of pruning and cleaning up as well.
It's funny because I just had a conversation yesterday about this, and we tend to make it more difficult than it really is. And we had a conversation, okay, so with one of our engineers, how do we capture, how do you, the process of deploying something to production, creating a new service, deploying something to production. And essentially the simplest answer was, so just record your screen for 3 hours or for 2 hours or for 1 hour. Just record it. And we will have an agent that will, and it will create that context. So I think it's just, sometimes it just sees, or we make it more difficult than it really is. But if we just do that piece, several times per day, let's say, or per week, then we will have that context for the agents in future. It's not about only the engineering context, but for us is also about the company decisions that are made, right? So a lot of
the product context, the strategy context.
Yes,
right.
So I'll give an example. So we had a lot of context or decisions that are made in the company are made on different, stand-ups, steercos, so different calls, let's say meetings, right? And these were mostly lost. Right? So people do have their note takers there, but they are not shared within the company. So what we've done is that we've created our own note taker, right, which joins those meetings which can be public, which is most of them in our organization, and then just takes notes and makes that available to any agent in the company. So that's available to our coding agents, that's available to our agents that are for sort of people to help them with their tasks. So that's one example. So again, it's just getting it somewhere on paper, not really paper, but somewhere in a bucket.
And
agents can and agents can handle it then, because they can search it. Doesn't need to be anything difficult, just an access to a text file.
And may start challenging some feature requests in the future, right?
Yeah, or decisions.
Based on this conversation and the decision, these features may be
Yes,
bollocks.
exactly.
Yes.
Yeah, exactly. And what you can do now is say, okay, so based on the last 3 days of meetings in Rohlik, what are the key strategic things to focus on? What are the key bottlenecks? And it will give you a very good summary of what's happening, what the key issues are, and where we should focus.
So now the role of engineers, while doing code reviews and reviews of code reviews, they are now figuring out how to stop doing all of that, right? How to provide more context so that the AI can do better decisions, that they don't interrupt them for more input, and that even the code review itself might be automated in a way. How long do you expect this to take, actually? But do you get to the point when you can say that the knowledge is already rich enough that the interruptions for decisions to humans is low and undisturbing, and then the code is being written, code reviewed, tested, deployed without too much human intervention and doing the right thing? How far do you think you are from this moment?
So in parts of Rohlik, I think we could get there within a year. The parts that we will be quite quickly able to get to a monorepo, quite quickly be able to, for the agents to spin up the test environments, get that feedback loop, and something that we can really capture, context-wise really well. And it's sort of, and it's not a wide domain, right? So with wide domain, I'm sort of meaning parts which, if I change something there, it's going to affect the whole company, right? So we do have domains which are quite self-contained. So I think there we should be able to, within a year, get there where essentially agents will be able to run it. By run it, I mean, you'll give it tasks and it will just do it. I think what will be still for people to do. So there's 2 things that I still don't really see how in reasonable amount of time we could do with agents. The first is agency, which means someone deciding to do something, right? Which means I'm not satisfied with the customer experience or with the proposition that we have, so I decide to change it. Yes, we could have agents that will, based on customer feedback, could suggest things, but to be that primal mover of things and just go in there, okay, so I decide to change this and this is what we will do. So that's first thing, and then owning the outcome is the second. So there will need to be some person responsible for even sort of setting up this environment, right? So even if it's already set up, then to maintain it, right? To make sure that this doesn't deteriorate and it doesn't, agents don't produce their own context, which gets polluted, right? So there will still some sort of a, I'm not sure if it will be a new role. It might be a new role, something like a context engineer. Not sure how it's going to be called, but someone who essentially prepares the environment for agents so that they can work the best way. So it's essentially the similar role to, I know, management before, right? So you prepare the environment for people to do their best work, and that you will be doing that for the agents, right? And keep it that way.
So you can call it an agent shepherd, maybe.
Yes, I don't know. I don't know how it's going to be called, but we see a need for that role already in Rohlik, right? Because it has not been systematized, but essentially it is there, right? So engineers, a significant amount of their time they spend on creating the environment for the agents so that they can work, right? So they have the context, they can test things, they know how to test things, they know how to deploy, and just give that explanation and context to the agents.
So do you see this building the environment as something that is being built and will be built at some point, or something that will be ongoing, or it will probably
No,
split?
I think it will be ongoing, at least as far as I can see, right? And I don't assume I'm better at predicting stuff than anyone else, but I think it will be ongoing.
At the same capacity as now, or at some point, like
I don't
the
know.
majority will be built,
Yeah, I don't know.
and good enough.
No, I don't think it will be good. So okay, so if we would let agents do everything by themselves, right? So they can do it very fast, right? So by fast I mean they could, you don't have any work hours and so on, right? These models will be faster, right? So at some point they will just create so much stuff that again a person will be a bottleneck, right? A person will be a bottleneck to sort of police it, shape it. Okay, so this doesn't make sense, this makes sense. So I think there still will be a pressure on people to do something. I just don't know what that something will be, right? It's not probably going to be something that we are doing now, but there will be pressure on people to do it because otherwise it would just run away from us.
Yes. I can imagine that at a certain point in time, that it will be a moving target. That whatever decisions are people doing now will be different in 6 months, and in 6 months, whatever the people will be doing then might become automated or augmented by agents with more and more context. And maybe at some point, the agents will not only analyze the data and complaints from the customers, but maybe create the whole business cases and do it better than people at some point. I mean, it might be far future.
Yeah, but I think we are already there now. So I'll give you an example. So Maya, our AI shopping assistant. So that's one of our products, right? So that's, you can essentially end-to-end shop with Maya, right? You can ask for recipes, adding to cart, checkout, payments. So I think from since a week ago, you can pay with Maya. So you just tell Maya, okay, please, the order looks good, pay. And this product, essentially, we have a very good feedback loop from our customers, because if something doesn't work, there is an easy feedback loop for our customers to let us know. And what we do have, we have agents set up that are looking at that feedback and are essentially creating PRs to address it, right? So not everything, so that feedback goes through agentic triage. And if an agent decides, okay, so this is a relevant feedback that we really could fix this, then it will create a PR, right? So it essentially, in that area, it acts as a product manager, right? So deciding, okay, so this we could fix. It creates the PR, and again, then a person will review and merge it. Right? So I think that we are already at that point. And I think what's holding us back is, I don't think the capabilities anymore. Is rather someone to just sit down and create, within that context that we already have. We have all the customer feedback. We don't need more. And create an agent that suggests what we should be building.
Give it the right data. Yeah. I will now make a Joe Rogan impression. Wow, that's so cool. And I mean it. Yeah, it's really so cool, but also very natural to see. So do you have any example of an feature that Maya created, coded, like on its own?
Yeah,
do you have some recent example?
So I think Maya is one of our products that's really written by AI, and a lot of this. So there is still, let's say, the strategic direction where we will say, okay, so agentic payments, right? So that we need to crack that one, and we did, right? So there is always some sort of strategic direction. But for the real sort of operational customer feedback, when something doesn't work, then Maya updates its own programming, essentially its own context, right? What it has in a system prompt. It still goes through a human review, but I think the Maya as a feature as a whole is one of the services that essentially was written by AI and is now improved by AI automatically. And there is, of course, still some, let's say, more strategic product direction where we want to take it.
So as the engineering role is turning into creating environment, what are the skills of engineers that are now rotting, but you are afraid of rotting? And what are some skills that just are no longer necessary and maybe there is no need to invest in them?
I think the thing that we discussed at the beginning, the concern that some of our engineers have, that okay, so if they don't write the code, how they can review it? And they had, and I'm not sure how this will turn out, right? But that generation of engineers that are engineering more than for the last 1 year, let's say, they still have the experience and they form their cognitive capability writing code and reasoning about architectural decisions, like sort of really on the level of code. For the engineers that now we will be sort of entering the craft, let's say, they will probably not have that experience, right? So, and I'm not yet sure how that's going to turn out, right? Because those engineers, I think that's the let's say the skill set where I'm not sure if that's good or bad. But we'll have to learn how to work with it, because that skill set I think will disappear, right? It will turn more into, or the new engineers' cognitive upbringing will not be about, okay, so how do I write this? How do I, extract these classes and so on? It will be more about, okay, so how do I prompt it to give me what it wants, right? So that one is difficult. And if the part of the question was about, okay, so what will be new skills? I think we can already see it, right? So a lot of the engineers need to become real like product engineers, right? Which means they will make product decisions. They are able to do their data analysis to find out what's the key issue now with the product, and they will be able to implement it because they will have that, they will have that space to do that, and also the capability, right? So again, previously, being able to synthesize customer feedback was a lot of work, right? Currently, it's not. It's just asking our analytical agent in Rohlik to, okay, tell me please what are the top 10 reasons the customers don't think our UX is perfect, right? And it will synthesize from hundreds of different customer feedbacks, and you have results in 15 minutes. So I think that skill set of being able to do more and not just the engineering part, that will be, and it's already getting more important.
So the key question is the blend between the product-facing role and the engineering role, or the ratio will be moving probably more towards product. And at some point...
Yeah, so I think the product people will be moving towards engineering because they will be able to ship their features. They already are able to ship their features.
Without having the engineering background?
Yes, exactly. Yes, so that's already happening. We see that. And we do have some product people in Rohlik that actually ship more than some engineers. And then from the other side, the engineering will shift more towards the product. So they will blend a bit, but still there will be some people better at one thing, some people better at the other thing. So I don't think they will dissolve completely. but they will sort of merge, and there in a lot of the tasks you will not need the handover, right? Which is a huge time waster in our case. I think everywhere.
Cases,
Right?
everywhere,
so
yeah.
when you need one person to explain something to the other person, so that person can do it, and then you ask back, okay, did you mean that? So that is a huge waste of time for everyone.
Yes. So it has a name. The distance of handover between a customer and an engineer is called a corporate obesity index.
Yeah, and that's why we have. Well, that's why the FDs
reducing it to as low as possible. Yeah. So the bottleneck is now in the code review, but this is something that you are actively working on by providing more context and starting to automate the merge process. When do you see the bottleneck in the next 6 months? When does it move to? If you remove handovers, if you remove interruptions, if you remove human reviewing
I
reviews.
think it will be in ideas of what to build. And I don't mean it like we couldn't come up with ideas. We could easily come up with hundreds of different ideas, but it will be in having enough impactful ideas and being able to judge what's impactful. So we will be able to multiply our shipping speed end to end. We will be able to quickly generate lots of ideas, maybe with an automated process, but that I think will be the bottleneck, sort of saying, okay, this will move the needle and this is what we should build, right? And because it's also that the iteration time, like, if you want to try something out with customers, that will take time, right? That you can't really, you can speed the shipping process. You really can't speed up the customers tried it out and gave you feedback, right? Because they will need to make an order to figure out whether that feature is good or not and give you feedback. So I think that will be the part where, being able to come up with needle moving ideas and then being able to iterate them enough with the customers.
Yes, and the flood of new features will not be good for the cognitive load of the customer, right? Yeah. So, do you think this is something that the AI agents can also help with?
Yes, I wanted
to clearing up the ideas which will actually move the needle and maybe even accelerating the feedback process in a way.
And maybe I wanted to sort of on the testing the ideas with customers, maybe just before I get to this question, what we also see that not insignificant part of our customers are starting to use agents to shop, right? So Maya is the obvious one, so you can shop with Maya, but also we have MCP server through which you can actually shop, right? So some of our customers have their own agent, connect our MCP server to it, and
I'm building one myself.
Yes, and then they shop through that. So Maya was purpose built to give you a good experience, but maybe you have some other things that you find important, so you can do that. And then actually you can speed up that cycle because that agent will be able to give you feedback about the customer experience that you created for them, right? So if people will have agents shopping for them, which they will, I'm not sure again whether that's going to be in a year or 2 years, I don't know when. Then that you can speed up that cycle. But no, sorry, back to your question.
This is exciting and scary at the same time. That more and more decisions are being made probably better by AI. We still keep some decisions with ourselves, but maybe more and more we will see will be done by AI better.
Yes.
So it's exciting and scary.
Yeah. Let's see where it goes.
So what I'm interested also in is how all of this affect the collaboration inside the team. So now that most activities are done automatically, autonomously, how do you see that the collaboration inside teams and between teams evolved and changed? And is it for the better or not?
So this could have many angles. So right. So one angle could be, okay, what's the new team structure? Let's say so, right. So if you are going to merge product, engineering, and likely design, right, having design engineers, then I think
And have you? Do you have teams like this? Do you combine these roles into single
Yes.
teams? Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
So so maybe just the way that we are structured is that we are structured into a small 3 to 5 person teams that own a particular outcome. So it could be first time user acquisition, right? That is a team. We have an acquisition team that essentially works on features that help us drive first time users. We have like Maya team, right? So we have last mile team, right? So last mile team help us drive route efficiency, right? So that is a team that owns a specific outcome, and that team has autonomy in terms of what they do, right? So they don't need to align with anyone. They have autonomy in terms of what they need to ship. Of course, they need to check if something's going to change the customer experience or so, but essentially they are self-sufficient. So we did sort of part of that, right? When you have together, let's say, product engineering, sometimes you need a designer if it's sort of customer facing, or maybe you need a machine learning engineer in that team as well, right? So these are essentially self-contained units. And that's to mitigate the handover issues, right? So if you have, if they don't need to align with others as much as before, then they can sort of move faster. So that's one thing that we are sort of driving.
So you have end-to-end teams which own a well-defined area feature.
And they should drive a specific outcome, a specific metric. And they have guardrails, right? Like, okay, so you can drive route efficiency, but you can't make it worse for customers. So that's one part. The second part is, and I think we should be pushing that more in Rohlik, is really having this sort of, product engineering mindset. So engineers make product decisions and product ships, right? And also you don't have design just to design stuff, but it's a designer that ships code, right? So I think that's where that's something, thinking about it now, we should push even more.
So what's the challenge in this?
Yeah, I think it's just people are used to do certain things certain way.
So some inertia.
Yes, it's
Yes.
I think it's inertia. I don't think it's capabilities anymore. I think it's inertia. So, of course, we are changing, right? I'm changing. My role is changing. Their roles are changing. But I think if we just say, okay, let's just throw it all out, how we worked before. Let's try it completely from scratch. That's better than trying to slowly move and try this. So that even if you don't get there where you want, but you will move more than if you're just trying to go from, okay, this is where I am, let's make 2% improvement, 1% improvement. And so yeah,
it's a common change management trick to do a bigger disruption, that it's easier for people to come to a new way of thinking than gradually. People might be asking, you are using agents a lot for writing code, reviewing everything. How much does it cost?
Yep.
What was the tokenomics?
Yeah, so we do spend on, so I have several views on that. So or several angles. One is the AI spend that we have in our products, right? That's, that could be Maya, but that could be that is also other things in our internal products, right? So we have internal, let's say, internal agents that you can task with something, and then they will do it in our internal systems. And then there is this agentic engineering spend, which is, our engineers using agents to speed up coding.
And how do you think about return of investment with this? What's your thinking?
Yeah.
Do you compare it with number of features delivered, or?
Yeah. So we need to think about that, and we do. But I will sort of answer it in two parts. The first part is, okay, so what's really important for me is that we rather think about how to multiply our capability. So let's say I don't want to ship 60% more PRs next year. I want to ship, 2, 3, 4, 5 times more. And there it's important that we just set up the system correctly. So there the ROI is very difficult to sort of capture, right? So because I would rather the team focusing on, okay, let's just build it so it works and don't worry about the cost now, right? Because tokens will be cheaper in the future. It's unlikely they will be more expensive. And models will be better, right? So if we focus on the foundations now, right, and experiment with it and spend, that needs some investment. And it's not like it's a big investment. It's an investment, but it's not like building a new warehouse. So if we do that now, we will be able to multiply our capabilities in future. If we don't do that, we'll be left behind because someone else will do it. We will. So that's one part, right? Then the second part, if you really would like to take a look in the ROI, then essentially, if I've mentioned we are shipping 50-60% more PRs now per person than we were 6 months back. So you can calculate
this would barely cover the couple of engineers. Yes.
Yeah. So you can calculate the ROI. It's there, right? But I don't think that's the end game. Right? Having 200% ROI on something. I think the end game is, okay, how we can 10 times the shipping speed and what we do, which is possible. It's entirely possible. We've seen other companies who are really AI native did it, right? And we can do it as well.
So what's the overall atmosphere in engineering now that they saw this huge increase in productivity, but also huge shift in the focus of their work over the past half a year? Do you see people more tired? Do you see them more excited? Do you see them more scared about the future? And I believe it will be person from person, but really the overall atmosphere, what will be the overall atmosphere?
Yeah, I think it really depends. And it's exactly as you say, like it's per person. So in some teams, right, depending on which types of people you have in which teams. So some teams are really excited and you can see pushing the boundaries. And some teams are naturally sort of maybe not naturally, but some teams are just a bit more hesitant and see it more like a difficult thing to do. So I'm not sure what's the average atmosphere. I think, right, the average atmosphere is a bit more positive, but a bit exhausting as well, right? Because it's just more things. It's more cognitive load, right? But it's more exciting, right? It's just very exciting to see the thing that you want to build being done more quickly and being able to do it more. But it takes some toll, right? So, and I think the job also is just getting together the right team, right? Where you really have these enthusiasts for how things will be shipped in a year and rather get there quickly than, have a lot of people that sort of are not sure, no, I don't want to do that because this is how I did it before. And I think it's for the benefit of the people as well, right? Because, if you will be thinking about how to do it agentically, just your value on the market will rise. So I think it's overall net positive for everyone.
Yes, it's coming whether we want or not. It's here, yes. The future is here, and it's a huge opportunity for everyone, however scary it is.
Yeah, and I like to think how it's going to look like in half a year, right? So, okay, maybe 3 months to half a year. Okay, so how it's likely going to look like? I have no idea how it's going to look like in a year, but sort of 3 months it's reasonable to assume, and let's just build for that, and let's be sure that when we are in those 3 months, we don't regret that we didn't change something before.
Okay, this was really interesting. And you are very far ahead in engineering, like above the average. So I really am interested where you will be in 6 and 12 months.
Me too.
So thank you very much for being here.
Thank
and
you.
for your time.
It was a
Thank
pleasure.
you.
Thank you very much.